Can a simple sound change the fate of an entire team? What happened at Fiorano that even the most skeptical Ferrari engineers burst into applause? Today we tell you about it in great detail. At 7:52 in the morning in Fiorano, a thick fog covered Ferrari's private circuit. It was winter, but it wasn't just the weather that made him feel that way. There was a unique kind of tension in the air, a mix of technical nervousness and emotional mysticism. Nobody spoke. All you could hear was the measured footsteps of the engineers moving around the garage, adjusting final parameters, checking telemetry data for the umpteenth time, checking pressures, making sure everything was perfect. It wasn't just any day. It was the moment that had been brewing for more than 730 days in the most absolute privacy of Maranello. In the center of the box, covered until that moment with a black tarp, was the SF26. Around him, the core of the technical team. The power unit leaders, the ERS specialists, the track engineers, and in the background, watching in complete silence, the director Frédéric Vasseur. None of them would say it out loud, but they all knew that what was going to happen that day would determine not only the direction of 2026, but the very future of Ferrari in the final hybrid era. It wasn't just another test. It was a verdict. When the signal was finally given and the engine started, it was not a violent explosion as many imagined. It was a contained roar, dense, clean, harmonious, as if each cylinder knew exactly when and how it should breathe. A Formula One engine never sounds common. But this one didn't sound like any before. The vibration not only echoed off the walls of the garage, but hit each technician's chest as a physical reminder that they had crossed an unprecedented technical threshold. The metallic echo spread through Fiorano as if the entire circuit was celebrating its own rebirth. The reactions did not take long. Some younger engineers looked at each other without speaking, with wide eyes as if they had just seen something sacred. Others, the older ones, simply closed their eyes and nodded. They knew what they had heard. That mix of controlled power and structural balance is not improvised. It is the result of a revolutionary thermal architecture. It meant that the theory they had been defending for months, that of the steel cylinder heads, the new combustion strategy, the deep integration of the ERS with the V6 structure, was not only valid but superior. Frédéric Vasseur, from the shadow of the box, remained motionless throughout the entire process. Not a gesture, not a word. Only when the engine reached its peak revs and came to a controlled stop did he do something unusual. He stepped forward and patted the chief engineer on the shoulder. Nothing needed to be said. That gesture, simple and direct, was more eloquent than any technical speech. It was his way of acknowledging that something profound had changed. And then, as if a spell had been broken, the applause began. Spontaneous. No protocol. No cameras. As a reflex action by a team that finally felt that it was building not just a car, but a real threat to the hegemony of the category. What happened that day in Fiorano cannot be measured in lap time. It is measured in something more difficult to quantify: collective belief. The story of the SF26 does not begin in Fiorano, not even on the runway. It begins 2 years earlier in a closed room inside Ferrari's engine department in Maranello. There, in a restricted meeting, a senior engineer whose identity has not yet been made public presented an idea that at any other team would have been dismissed as technical heresy: replacing aluminum cylinder heads with a steel alloy in the new engine by 2026. In Formula One, where every gram counts, where thermal and structural balance is measured in tenths of a millimeter in milliseconds, simply proposing steel sounded like suicide. But at Ferrari they were already tired of mediocrity. The seasons from 2022 to 2024 had left them with an irrefutable truth. Continuing to do the same thing only perpetuated defeat. It was necessary to break with everything. And thus Project 678 was born, the code name for what would be the heart of SF26. From the beginning, the strategy was to divide. Not philosophically but technically. Two parallel development paths were created. A conservative one, based on the 2025 engine with incremental improvements. And another radical one, where decisions were not made by consensus but by calculated risk. In this second route, the version with steel cylinder heads was developed, integrating a design that modified not only the combustion geometry, but also the complete thermal behavior of the propellant. This version not only implied more weight, but a total redistribution of internal masses, different thermal expansion tolerances, new cooling maps, and a much more aggressive integration with the MGUH and MGUK. It was literally another engine. 4 months, the data did not provide certainty. There were simulations where steel offered impressive thermal benefits, maintaining high combustion efficiency even under overpressure conditions. But there were also scenarios where the weight penalized the times in long runs. In every meeting, the engineers discussed without filters. There was tension, conflicts, proposals that were discarded the next day. And meanwhile, the rest of the grid didn't even imagine that Ferrari was working on something so bold. That's when AVL, the Austrian advanced engineering giant, came into play. The collaboration was kept secret and was key to unlocking structural bottlenecks in the design. AVL provided internal simulation software and laboratory machinery that allowed Ferrari to test not only the mechanical behavior of the cylinder heads, but also their resistance to extreme thermal cycles. The turning point came when it was possible to stabilize the thermal exchange at high speeds without the need for supercooling, something that aluminum designs could not sustain without compromising reliability. That day in Maranello, the internal team changed. There was no longer a plan B. Engineers began to migrate to radical design. One by one, the skeptics were converted. Not because of ideology, but because of evidence. The numbers spoke. Lower energy losses, better heat retention in the combustion cycle, and a significant reduction in structural fatigue of the block under combined loads. It wasn't just a better engine. It was a new technical paradigm. In the midst of all this, Frédéric Vasseur played a silent but decisive role. He did not intervene technically, but he did intervene culturally. It allowed the laboratory to transform into a real experimental environment, free from the immediate pressure of results. He gave space, defended budgets before the Ferrari board, and shielded the technical team from external leaks. His leadership was invisible to the outside, but absolutely present in every corner of development. During that period, many outside the team criticized Ferrari's silence. In networks, there was talk of a team without direction, without improvements, without strategy. What no one knew was that beneath this apparent inactivity, a revolution was brewing. The SF26, therefore, is not just the result of a brave decision. It is the testimony of a team that dared to question its own certainties, to challenge the established norms of modern engineering, and to build from controlled risk a machine that not only seeks to win races, but also change the way Formula One is understood. Because only those who accept technical chaos can create a new form of order. And exactly that, was what Ferrari did during 2 years of quiet madness. When a Formula One car is started for the first time, you might think that the only thing that matters is whether it starts or not. If it rotates without failures. If the temperature, pressure, and vibration readings are within the expected range. But at Ferrari that day in Fiorano, the SF26 engine not only powered a hybrid drive. It ignited something that cannot be measured in sensors. Conviction. That moment marked the end of a process and, at the same time, the birth of an ideology. Because when a group of engineers has spent 2 years developing something that the entire industry considers reckless, there is only one way to stay that course. By believing. Not on blind faith. Not in arrogance. But in the deep logic of its calculations, in the coherence of its models, and in the human quality of those who integrate each screw in each equation of the car. And when that happens, when each element of a highly complex structure aligns behind a common idea, the result is not simply performance. It's alchemy. The moment when a group of people, machines, and processes synchronize not to avoid errors, but to actively pursue excellence without fear of consequences. That's what lit up in Fiorano. A technical ideology that is no longer based on the desperate desire to win again, but on the rational certainty that something genuinely superior has been built. That every difficult choice made, from the use of steel in cylinder heads to the redesign of cooling systems, has an unquestionable technical reason. That every engineer who bet his prestige on this machine did so because he believed it was the only path to redemption. And that is the most dangerous thing a team can have. A group of people who not only execute orders but defend a vision. Because when engineers do not work out of fear but out of conviction, the margins of error narrow and limits are broken. Therefore, the SF26 is not just a new weapon on the grid. It is the symbol that Ferrari no longer seeks to revive the past. He wants to build the future. One in which technical alchemy is not a product of chance, but of collective belief. What Ferrari experienced in Fiorano was not just a day of internal testing. It was the turning point of a story that has been searching for redemption for more than a decade. That ignition didn't just confirm the viability of an engine, it confirmed that the team is ready to challenge the established technical order. But now the real question is another: will it be enough? Leave it in the comments what you think about all this.